I'm Diana Drake, and thank you so much. Welcome to my live. I really appreciate your time here today. We're going to cover a lot of amazing things about hormone dysfunction, root causality, and even protocols today. And this is interactive. So I really encourage you to go ahead and type a question into the chat. And my amazing producer, Jenny, is backstage right now helping us through this whole process. So she will just pop your questions up onto the screen as they come along, and I will answer them as I go. So please don't be afraid to interact, ask if you have any questions. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and jump in here. All right. And this is a scrolling PDF today, you guys, instead of slides. So here we go. This is, my presentation on hormone wellness for men and women. I myself am a naturopath. I specialize in holistic endocrinology without the use of HRT, which stands for hormone replacement therapy. And I even work on women who have had a full hysterectomy. And it looks like my scroll. Here we go. Sorry, guys. Okay, so I have been practicing since 2018. My practice is currently 100% virtual, and it is called DMD Natural Medicine, where I specialize in thyroid, skin, and hormones. I'm also the owner and distributor of Skin Naturopathics. That is a wellness brand for skin conditions. And I also own Dr. Dale Wellness brand, which is a homeopathic company, and we are all based in Florida now. Now, there might be some young women on, and there might be some older women on as well. And what I always like to start with is this question: do you feel like your body is betraying you as you age? Today, we are going to cover what are hormones and what is their role in the body, what are some classic hormone imbalances in men and women, and what are their associated symptoms, what are the root causes that we're looking at when we're talking about all of these imbalances. We're going to look at some traditional Western medical options and then your other options, so the natural hormonal wellness route. We're going to look at diet and lifestyle changes that can help you support your hormone balance. And we're also going to look at some very specific natural protocols for low testosterone, menopause, and PCOS. So let's start really simply. What exactly is a hormone? A hormone is a chemical messenger that your body uses to regulate its functions. So we tend to really focus on what are called the sex hormones or the steroid hormones. So this is our estrogens, testosterones, progesterone, and DHEA. And that's a steroid precursor hormone, meaning your body is going to make other hormones from it. And all of these hormones are initially derived from cholesterol. And some additional hormones that you may have seen on a test or heard about would be melatonin. That's our sleep hormone. We also have thyroid stimulating hormone, or TSH. We have our insulin, which is from our pancreas. We have cortisol, that's from our adrenals. 17-OHP, also from our adrenals, and then follicle stimulating hormone. We actually have over 50 hormones that control an abundance of functions in our body. 50, that's a lot. So if you've ever had a hormone test and your doctor is only giving you, one progesterone, testosterone, and one estrogen, that's not really a full hormone test with enough data for what we want to look at with the endocrine system. Some really common symptoms in men that have hormonal imbalance will be low libido, hair loss, erectile dysfunction. They might have a beer belly, fatigue, acne on the face or back, aggression, depression, difficulties with concentration and memory. They might be moody and irritable and have a loss of muscular strength. So the most common seen hormone scenarios in men are going to be, the big one is low testosterone. They might also have high estrogen with that low testosterone, and they also may have out of range cortisol with that low testosterone as well. But pretty much with men, the biggest thing we're going to see go down is testosterone. Now, women, we are a little more complicated. So when something is going on with our hormones, we may notice fertility issues. That's a big one. Lack of periods or very painful periods. It's actually not normal for a woman to have a very painful period. I always like to tell women on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 is excruciating cramps. If your period cramps are more painful than a 3 out of 10, something is not right. So that's a big one to watch for. Hair loss is pretty big. We also have low libido, stubborn belly fat, fatigue, mood swings. Severe PMS symptoms, obviously, we should know when we're about to have our period. It's okay to get a little bit moody, a little bit bloated. But if you have severe PMS, depression, when you're coming into PMS, you're like overly aggressive and moody, that's also a little bit out of range. And then also, as we go into menopause, the hot flashes and the night sweats, those are actually avoidable if you have a healthy endocrine system. Also, very common are ovarian cysts and then acne and depression. So, these are all things that we want to watch for as women that would be an indicator that something's going on with our hormones. Okay, my PCOS slide. We're going to stop here for quite some time. Let's talk about what PCOS is. So, this is getting a lot of attention lately, especially on social media. It stands for polycystic ovarian syndrome, and it is kind of a catch-all term for a lot of things that are going wrong with the with our cycles right now. But it's important to understand that just because you don't have cysts on your ovaries doesn't mean that you don't have a form of PCOS. And I know that's really confusing, but if you have some of the symptoms that I'm about to go over and you go to the doctor and they give you a pelvic ultrasound and you don't have cysts, they might say you don't have PCOS, and that's an improper diagnosis and it's going to leave you very confused. So let's go over what the broad spectrum of symptoms are for PCOS. Number one is going to be elevated androstenedione. This is a type of testosterone that will build up in women and cause a lot of issues. So you really need to make sure on your hormone test that you are getting androstenedione tested. I've been in practice since 2018. I think only one time has someone, provided me with a test from another doctor that actually had androstenedione on it. So I always test everyone from scratch with my test that has a lot more values on it. But if your androstenedione levels are elevated, there is something going on with the ovaries that are overproducing this hormone and causing a lot of issues. Secondarily, you may have low progesterone, especially if you are a young woman and your progesterone is low. Something is not well. But we typically see this as a combination. So you'll have high androstenedione and low progesterone. And just so you know, if your progesterone is too low, you are going to have a hard time carrying a baby to term. Okay, so it's really important to get ahead of these things and know in advance if you're planning to have children if you have PCOS, because it could be a roadblock for you. Another thing to look for is insulin resistance. This is blood sugar balance, and it's indicated by A1C, insulin levels, and blood sugar levels on a blood test. And then you may have one or more cortisol times out of range. So typically, if you are just getting a blood test at the doctor when you're getting your hormones tested, they're only going to test one cortisol time, and it just happens to be the time when you're sitting in the chair getting your blood drawn. But this actually isn't enough data for us because our cortisol does all kinds of different things throughout the day. So it's really important to get a 4-point saliva cortisol test. So you're spitting in the morning, so early in the morning when you wake up, again in the late morning, at noon, and then again in the evening, so that we can see that cascade of cortisol. Because if you're sitting at, if you go to the doctor at 2 p.m. and your cortisol is in range, that doesn't mean it's in range in the morning or at night. So we want to see all of the ranges so that we can see if one or more of those times are out of range. So that can be an indicator of blood sugar issues and PCOS. Another big one is going to be having painful periods. If you are 3 or well above a 3, that could be a flag that something is going on with PCOS potentially. And then you may have a lack of or abnormal period cycle. And you'll notice that usually pretty early on. Again, the horrible PMS symptoms. If you do have ovarian cysts, then yes, you have PCOS. So if you do get told by a doctor that you have the cysts, we can assume PCOS. There are going to be mood disorders in combination with these other symptoms. Okay, so not mood disorders on their own, but in combination with these other symptoms, that would be something you want to look at. Also, anxiety and depression. If you have hyper or hypoglycemia, but again, that's going to be a blood sugar indicator. Sleep disturbances, definitely if you have trouble conceiving or carrying to term. If you notice that you have a lot of dark facial hair that's stubborn and seems out of place, skin tags is another interesting symptom that you may have. I have PCOS. Most of the women that come to me have PCOS, and I have little skin tags all over my body. And then this is a big one, and this would be a really big indicator especially when you're a teenager, is if you have acne. It's so common as young women that when we start cycling, we are in so much pain and we have acne, and our mom just takes us to the doctor and we're just given birth control instead of, being looked at and said, okay, let's do some further investigation here. Hopefully that's getting better with time. But I just really want everyone to take away that if you have these symptoms, especially the really obvious ones like the painful periods and the acne, you really need to get your hormones looked at. Okay. Another piece would be gut issues, and stubborn belly fat is a big one. If you feel like you kind of have that rubbery spare tire, especially when you're coming like out of high school into college, that is not normal. Okay. So, really, PCOS is kind of an issue with ovulation. It can also be an issue with blood sugars. So, that stubborn belly fat would be an indicator of insulin resistant PCOS. And there are actually 4 types of PCOS that I want to go over. And it is important that you understand which type you have. Don't be surprised if your doctor or your nurse practitioner doesn't know about all these forms. This is really starting to just become more apparent that the medical, I want to say industry, the medical industry or community is looking more at this. But for the most part, I am not seeing a lot of traditional Western MDs that know a lot about this. But the most common one is the first one that I mentioned, which is the insulin resistant PCOS. So that means that something is wrong with our metabolism of sugars. And instead of our sugars going in and out of the cell like they should, that gets turned into energy for us, it stays in our blood, and our sugar becomes elevated, and then it starts to get stored as fat. Okay. So this is something that we kind of do to ourselves with poor diet as we're growing up. It really is caused by too many sugars, a diet that's too high in carbohydrates and seed oils, and then microplastics. So microplastics actually plug into the cellular receptor site instead of insulin. So the insulin can't get in and out of the cell, which means the sugars can't get in and out and get used like they're supposed to. We also have the seed oils. Every cell in our body actually has a lipid barrier around it, and it's supposed to be made of omega-3 fats, which are soluble and kind of like so things can still permeate in and out of the cell. But with these seed oils that we're consuming, which it's now estimated that we get like 70% of our diet in America has seed oils in it, which is very scary. But that wrong oil in our body makes that cellular encapsulation hard. So the insulin, again, can't get in and out. And then we just have simply too many sugars and carbohydrates in the diet. The body gets overwhelmed. So, really, it's important if you're a mom out there listening to this, it is not too late to change your kids' diet. You really do not want your kids having sugars every day. You don't want them eating a high carbohydrate diet. When I was young, I ate, goldfish and fruit by the foot and popcorn and chips. And we had a beautiful square meal on the table every night, but all those snacks and sugars and things throughout the day literally gave me PCOS as an adult. And it's a lot harder to correct it as an adult than it is to just get ahead of it when you're young. Um, Oh, we have a question. Someone is asking, is PCOS inherited? And the answer is no, it is not. Great question. Thanks, audience. Um, this is something that's preventable if it is the insulin resistant PCOS, and this really can be managed well with diet. I also want to say that men also have this insulin resistance that causes their acne, and it's from the same issue. It's the too many sugars, the microplastics, and the seed oils in the food. So a lot of this, you guys, really is preventable. So really try to get ahead of this as much as you can. And if you are a young adult now or an adult, it's not too late, to try to correct these things. And you just really want to eat a diet that's really rich in good fats and proteins. You want to get rid of the sugars. You want to get rid of the processed grains and the carbohydrates and just stick to whole foods. Again, there's great supplementation that we're going to go over later, but really important that you understand the dietary things that help with insulin resistant PCOS. There is also PCOS that comes from adrenal stress, which is very rare. I've only seen maybe like 4 or 5 cases in my practice, but that comes from, you'll have elevated DHEA and elevated cortisol. as well as elevated androstenedione. So that takes more stress management and some other lifestyle things. So this is why it's important to have someone that understands on these labs what they're looking for and the different types of PCOS. And then there is also inflammatory PCOS, which is caused by inflammation in the body. Not, we don't necessarily know where. I have not seen a case like that personally, so I can't speak on that one too much. And then lastly, I do see this one is quite common. It would be post birth control PCOS. And that one's really unfortunate because taking birth control basically gives you PCOS. So another reason why we really should avoid birth control as young adults and teens, unless you are using it to stop pregnancy. Um, and I just think the pill is probably the worst kind of birth control that a woman can take. If anything, if you can do an IUD, if you can try to do, even using a diaphragm when you know you're ovulating, like there are so many other ways that we can have safer birth control, I feel like, than completely messing with our hormones for 30, every single day. So anyways, just food for thought of different things that we can do. Um, Moving on to menopause. A slowdown in the production of sex hormones because we no longer need to reproduce, particularly estrogen and progesterone. So that's what happens to us when we come into menopause. The estrogen decreases, and that causes an increase in follicle stimulating hormone, which then sends the hypothalamus into a frenzy. Since the hypothalamus controls temperature, among other things, women will experience night sweats and hot flashes, decreased libido, fatigue, and weight gain. Vaginal dryness and pain associated with sex is typically due to the thinning of the vaginal wall lining due to depleted progesterone. So, menopause is kind of something that we all don't look forward to and can be scary, but there are a lot of great things you can do coming into menopause to prevent this stuff from happening, which is great. I'm going to skip my thyroid slide just because I'm actually going to do an entire live episode for this, which I really hope you guys will join me for as well. So let's just jump into what, obviously, besides going into menopause, right? That's age, but what are the other things that are really causing these hormonal imbalances? The big one is going to be endocrine disruptors. We also have xenoestrogens, stress, diet, medication, dental issues, scar tissue, environmental exposure to toxins, and HRT and bioidentical HRT. So taking HRT actually does mess with your hormones, right? What exactly is an endocrine disruptor? That's something that looks almost identical to a hormone. So the cellular receptor site opens and lets it in, but then it cannot carry out the cellular function needed and just sits there taking the place of an active hormone. So if you guys imagine all of our cells as like a big beach ball, a big round beach ball, and that little plastic nipple where we blow up the ball, imagine that there are hundreds of those all over your cell, maybe even thousands, I don't even know. But each one of those little receptor sites is supposed to open for something specific, right? So a hormone, a certain, insulin, whatever, different hormones are supposed to go in. We have a whole endocannabinoid system that only will open for like THC. So what happens is these little endocrine disruptors, they look almost like a hormone. So the little keyhole will open and then something plugs in that doesn't belong. And now the hormone can't get in there. And now it's just sitting there dead and the cell isn't able to carry out its function. Let's look at some examples of endocrine disruptors. Potassium bromide. This is a halogen element that kicks the iodine out of our receptor sites. It is present in fire retardant chemicals that are sprayed on furniture, rugs, carpet, and mattresses. It's also used in pesticides, especially on golf courses, and it's added to bleached flour in the US, so we consume it orally. Potassium bromide. So, one of the most toxic things in your home is your mattress because this is sprayed with fire retardant chemicals, and this is the active ingredient in there. Most thyroid issues that I have so much potassium bromide in their thyroid and tiny, tiny amounts of iodine that our bodies just become junked up with the chemical instead of the proper nutrition that it needs. So this is a big one. We also have glyphosate or Roundup. Okay, so this is sprayed on farms and used in yards and commercial landscaping where things are beautifully manicured. It is sprayed on US wheat to preserve it for harvest. This is a really good reason to be gluten-free in the United States. It has more to do with the toxicity of than the wheat products, more than the wheat itself. This is why people tell you, they go to Italy and they ate all the pizza they wanted and they felt fine. You come back to America, you have pasta, you feel like crap. It's because in America, our wheat is genetically modified, number one. It's sprayed with glyphosate. Then potassium bromide is added to it. It's really, really unhealthy to eat gluten in the United States, any sort of white flour or wheat products if they're not organic. Okay. Heavy metals is a big one. You really just need to be aware of how metals go into the body. So vaccines, tap water, deodorant, cosmetics, those are the big offenders. Also cookware is a big one as well. We also have microplastics. This is a little harder to control. Even if you don't drink from a plastic water bottle, they are found in seafood from the polluted oceans. They are absorbed via drinking and eating out of plastic. There's BPA, BPB. There are also other chemicals. So just because something is BPA free doesn't necessarily mean it's safe. You really want to avoid plastics altogether. Then we have chlorine and fluoride. This is especially harmful for our thyroid, but in general, it messes with all of our hormones. And we get this mostly from drinking and bathing in city treated water and through non biological dentists, as well as toothpaste, pools, and hot tubs treated with chlorine. There are also pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides sprayed on our food, out in the landscaping in the environment. And then we have industrial solvents and lubricants, so oil and petroleum products. You might not realize, but if you're using brands like Vaseline and chapstick, any plastic and all prescription drugs are actually made from petroleum products. Okay, xenoestrogens I mentioned. So, a xenoestrogen is any natural or synthetic compound introduced into the body that mimics the effects of estrogen or promotes its production. There are over 160 xenoestrogens that may be involved in breast cancer development. So, when people are estrogen dominant, when women are men too, when people are estrogen dominant, a lot of times those estrogens are being driven by xenoestrogens. It's not only our own native estrogen production. So, from the perspective of healing breast cancer, when we're just given pills to completely suppress estrogen production, it's really unfortunate because we do need our natural estrogens, but it's the xenoestrogens that are bad. And it's obviously hard to compartmentalize which is which, but it's pretty scary that there are over 160 xenoestrogens. Okay. But women, we are the largest consumers of cosmetics products, and those are the most significant source of xenoestrogens. Anything you're putting on your skin, your body, your face should be clean. It should be organic. It shouldn't have toxic chemicals in it. There's a really great app that's out now. It's called Yucca. It's a weird name. It's YUCA. You can scan a product's barcode, you can type it in, and it'll give you a score from green to red of that toxicity of that product. So if you're not familiar with reading labels, you don't know how to do that, you feel overwhelmed and uncomfortable, I highly recommend getting that app. That'll help you make your decisions. Let's look at some other examples of xenoestrogens. So parabens, you guys hopefully should know this by now. Methylparaben, ethylparaben, polyparaben, butylparaben. These are commonly used as preservatives in lotions and skincare. Then we have, oh gosh, I might botch this, benzophenone and 4-MBC. So these are the chemical sunscreens that we find in the sunscreen lotions that are not organic. You really want to watch for these. You should only be using zinc and other natural sunscreen lotions. Then we have, this one really grinds my gears, but the hormone injected in all of the meat in the United States. Pretty hard to find meat that this hasn't been done to at a restaurant anyway. So it's really important that we're buying organic meat. Okay. Then there are certain pesticides that are xenoestrogenic, petrochemicals, herbicides, again, plastics, fuels, and car exhausts. So if you live in a very polluted area where there's a lot of traffic, we inhale that stuff and it does mess with our hormones. Then all drugs over the counter and prescription, they are going, because they have that petroleum product in there, they are going to be xenoestrogenic. Then we have phthalates. Those are going to hide in like candles, air fresheners, things like that you would like spray around or scent in the house. And then we have plastic softening chemicals. So that would be something treated with plastic so that it could be softer, like for a certain type of water bottle or a toy or something like that. Baby toys are a big offense, plastic baby toys. Then we have phytoestrogens, and there's a lot of controversy around this. Like, is it safe to eat estrogenic food? I think that really good organic, like soy and tempeh, is good for the body, especially if you're low on estrogens. You're working on your fertility. But it has to be organic is the thing. So if you've got like the miso soup, the miso paste, organic, that's a really great food. Edamame beans, organic, fabulous. If you can get the tofu or the tempeh organic, these are all really, really good foods that are good phytoestrogens. So a phytoestrogen will basically stop a xenoestrogen from going into a receptor site, which is great. So it's like playing defense. And I have highly recommend that you do, extra research on this if this interests you. But there are also some other foods that are phytoestrogenic. So we've got red clovers, coffee, even though I'm not a huge fan because that can mess with chemicals, with your hormones, but I did want to list it. Flax seeds and oats, lentils and legumes, which are peanuts, beans, and peas, and almonds. Those are all phytoestrogenic foods. Always organic, guys, if you can. And then stress as a cause of hormone dysfunction. We always hear about how stress makes us sick, but I just want to really explain exactly how this happens and break this down for you guys. So let's say you're out in nature and you see a bear and your body goes into fight or flight. What's going to happen? You're going to panic. Your blood pressure is going to go up. Your cortisol is going to rise so that you have energy to run. Your blood sugar is going to mobilize so that you have energy to run. Your muscles are going to tighten and your adrenals are going to release a ton of hormones, including, I'm having brain fog here, adrenaline. So if you are stuck in fight or flight and you're always in panic mode, you're going to have anxiety. If you're stuck in fight or flight, you might now have hypertension or chronic high blood pressure. If your cortisol is always up, you might have high cortisol on tests. You might have high blood sugar constantly on tests, right? Your muscles are tight. You might have chronic pain. If you're constantly releasing adrenaline, you're not going to sleep very well. So this is the problem with being stuck in fight or flight, or how stress actually makes us sick, because being stuck in this zone is causing our body not to be able to relax and go back into regular relaxation mode. So we're constantly operating in this stress state, and that can lead to all these chronic diseases. Adrenal stress is one of the major causes of hormonal imbalance. Chronic stress can affect the body in 4 phases, and I'm going to show you the following symptoms at every stage. So in phase 1, this is adrenal adaptation. This is when our adrenals are just starting to notice that we have a lot of stress that it's dealing with. So in this stage, you may have digestive problems, the inability to calm down, an inflamed prostate, increased cholesterol, severe weight gain or loss, menstrual problems, sleep disturbances, diarrhea, and a decrease in sex drive. In phase 2, this is adrenal maladaptation. You might have chronic fatigue, loss of libido, impotence, bloating and fluid retention, constipation, hair loss, bone density loss, increased urination, and low back or sciatica pain. In phase 3, now we're moving into adrenal exhaustion or burnout. This is fibromyalgia, chronic nonspecific pain, heart arrhythmia, severe constipation, panic attacks or anxiety, bile reflux and digestive problems, depression and mental frustration, memory loss and inability to think, sensitivity to smells, light, or sound, difficulty breathing, inflammation, and joint pain, on top of all the things happening in these other phases. And phase 4, this is a typo. Phase 4 is just blood sugar events. So we could have severe blood sugar crashing. So if you guys know or have yourself or know anybody that has some of these symptoms, this could literally just be caused from stress. So there are a lot of great things we can do with supplementation and lifestyle to get ahead of stress, since we can't control all the outside factors like the job, the family, the issues that cause our stress in the first place. We can only deal how our body deals with it or copes with it. Let's talk about some other things that affect hormones. Poor diet. So sugar, which is 8 times more addictive than cocaine, it's inflammatory. It drops the immune response, and it also feeds the bad bacteria in your gut. There's also caffeine. This is an insecticide of the plant, so it is considered a toxin. Alcohol, also a toxin, causes inflammation. It causes a drop in your immune response, elevated liver enzymes, dehydration, and brain cell loss. I don't know if you guys have noticed lately that, but they are discussing now. I've seen on the news if they are going to have a cancer warning on alcohol because it does increase your chances of getting cancer by 15%. I think that's pretty significant. Doesn't mean you can't do it once in a while, but drinking every weekend is just not appropriate of a lifestyle for someone that wants to be healthy. It's just not. There's also processed carbohydrates because this will spike your glucose levels and affect your insulin resistance, or excuse me, your insulin or your hormone levels. Then we have poor nutrition, so not enough fruits and vegetables or natural foods, eating too many processed foods that contain chemicals, sugar, and have no nutritional value. Then there are certain medications that really take a toll on your hormones, and that includes cortisone, anti inflammatory drugs, glucose regulating drugs like insulin, synthetic and natural hormone replacement, including thyroid drugs and birth control, antibiotics, and high blood pressure medication. And why is this? And this is because medications are endocrine disruptors because they are chemical in nature. More specifically, they are made from petroleum, and some are specifically designed to interfere with the body's natural hormone functions, such as birth control and the things that I named above. Okay, I mentioned dental issues earlier. Every tooth has an endocrine relationship. That means that every tooth in your mouth has a meridian that's running to a certain organ or gland. So if you have dental material that is not biocompatible, this can be the source of hormonal issues. For example, if you have a metal implant or a filling, if you have the toxic silver amalgam fillings, those have mercury in them, that can really, really mess with your hormones. There's also dental infection as a major cause of thyroid issues due to the viral and bacterial infection draining to the thyroid. Um, I might go more into this on another presentation, but it's just an interesting food for thought. If you do have a root canal, or even if you've had your wisdom teeth removed, you might have an infection festering in there that's draining to the body. There's also scar tissue. So this would cause an energy flow blockage along the acupuncture meridian, and that can develop scarring from either surgery or injury. You may have had an organ removed, dental surgery, plastic surgery, or a hysterectomy. And then, of course, there's environmental toxins, so pesticides, radiation, EMFs, mercury, lead, metals in the water. Any toxin we come in contact with in this polluted environment, which is pretty much air, water, and food supply. So the problem is that when our hormones are off, we are told that we need hormone replacement therapy or birth control. The idea behind HRT is to replace or input hormones into the body that we are not adequately producing, included under this umbrella are hormone patches, pellets, injections, implants, topical creams, naturally plant-derived formulas from yam, and oral tablets or capsules. With a little time and the proper supervision by a doctor, you can create a balanced hormone profile this way, meaning the levels look good on labs and the patient feels better. But here's the problem with HRT. There is no such thing as a bioidentical hormone because they are not native to the body. They are biosimilar at best, and we are still continuing to find out the devastating effect of hormone replacement therapy on the human body. Research shows that all hormones that are taken or used internally or externally, including natural ones, may have a negative effect. Any hormone replacement, whether it is natural or synthetic, causes the body to slow down the production of its own natural hormones. This includes sex hormones as well as melatonin, DHEA, progesterone, human growth hormone, and thyroid stimulating hormone. Some other facts about HRT is that the body will shut down production of its own natural hormones, and then a dependence on the replacement hormone develops, and this will age the body. Toxicity burdens the entire body, including the liver, kidneys, blood, and the immune system. Hormone levels become toxic. Hormone levels become elevated, affecting cortisol levels. And using these will cover up or camouflage the true cause of the imbalance. There are a lot of risks associated with HRT: an increased chance of breast cancer, tender breasts, breast lumps, even in men, digestive issues, hair loss, joint pain, memory lapse, mood swings, water retention, weight gain, nausea, headaches, double vision, shortness of breath, chest pains, swelling or painful legs, jaundice, depression, skin irritation, and discolored stool or urine. We're going to skip this thyroid slab. So I want to review one more time the causes of hormonal balance, and they are endocrine disruptors, xenoestrogens, stress, diet, medication, dental issues, scar tissue, environmental exposures to toxins, and HRT. So the question is, does HRT correct the root cause of hormone dysfunction? No. HRT does not address stress, hormonal toxicity, medication, dental issues, diet, scar tissue, etc. HRT only puts a band-aid on a situation by creating a balanced profile of hormones in the blood while leaving harmful processes continuing to go unchecked in the body and creating additional toxicity in the liver. And I'm not saying, you guys, that there's never a place for HRT. Sometimes we have to use HRT. I just want you to know that that should really be the last stop. If you can try other therapies first. And you do have natural options. Balancing hormone issues naturally takes a combination of diet and lifestyle changes, detoxification and cleansing, supplementation. You can use our Dr. Dale homeopathic hormone rejuvenation formulas. And really, you want to get to the root if you want to heal yourself, your patient, your clients. So our brand, Dr. Dale Wellness, really pioneered this hormone rejuvenation kit. And it really creates holistic harmony in the body, which is beautiful. And it's just so different than what HRT is doing. We do have some direct to patient testing that you can do if you just are curious to look at your own hormones. The reason we test with saliva, it is because it's the most accurate. It is expensive, but it really is the most accurate, and you get a ton of good data from here. Another thing you want to do, if you have metal in your mouth, you guys, please get it out. And you want to make sure that you use a holistic dentist, and someone who is a legitimate bioidentical dentist can be found at this website. It's iabdm.org. That's iabdm.org. We have a thyroid toxicity panel, which is great because we look at the bromine, the heavy metals, the iodine, selenium, which is, not things that doctors are looking at commonly when they're going over thyroid dysfunction. Another great thing that you can do is clean up your water supply. You want to do a whole house filtration system and reverse osmosis at your sink to remove contaminants, metals, chlorine, fluoride, microplastics, and more. If you can't get a whole house filter, if you could at least do a shower filter and then an at the sink or under the sink filter and reverse osmosis system for what you're drinking is great. Just remember, what you're showering and bathing in, it does get absorbed into your skin and your blood as well. So cleaning up your diet, we want to aim really for 50 to 80% organic fiber-based foods. You want to have really good fats in your diet. You want to stop eating meat and dairy if it's not organic. That's really important. Only organic produce if you can. Really avoid the seed oils, the canola oil, the vegetable oils. Wean off the caffeine and the energy drinks and avoid alcohol. This is going to be how you can really live your best, healthiest life with your diet. And again, a lot of good fats like the fish, grass-fed organic butter, nuts, olive oil. Really bringing in high, the good fats is great for your diet. So we talked a lot about all the ways that all the endocrine disruptors and all the stuff gets in. So detoxification is a really great way to get rid of all that stuff. So you can run any kind of detoxification, you guys, is great. I'm just going to share this one that we provide. This will go after metals, toxins, glyphosate, and it really targets the kidneys, livers, colon, blood, and lymphatics. So this isn't just one bottle, you're getting 4 bottles. So this is a really high powered detox product, or protocol, I should say. And then you can customize it with homeopathy, more lymphatic, getting rid of the mercury if you know that there's glyphosate or other pesticides in there. So you can customize. Okay, we just have a question come through. If someone wants to work with me, you guys can click on the link at the beginning of the presentation, or you can go to my website, dmdnaturalmedicine.com. The link is live right now again. And I do offer a complimentary 15-minute phone consultation just to make sure we're a right match and get your questions answered. And then during that time, I'll order any testing that you need. And once we get it back, we'll have our meeting. And I am 100% virtual. So wherever you are, I can work with you. Okay, as far as stress management, you guys have all heard of adaptogens like ashwagandha. So we make a really good adaptogen pro product, and this is great for stress management. So you want to supplement with some sort of adaptogen blend, and then meditation is incredible. Yoga, deep breathing. These are all things that are going to help you with your stress. Getting rid of household toxins. This is fun. I want to just note that just because a brand like Tide comes out with a free and clear formula, that does not mean that this is a natural product. They are still very toxic chemical surfactants. They've just taken out the perfume and the dye. Okay. You really want to switch to organic and plant-based cleaning, laundry, and dish products. Only use natural cosmetics, face wash, deodorants, and lotions, and don't use Roundup or chemical fertilizers in your lawns. We don't want anything in or around our house that's toxic. This is our suite of hormone rejuvenation products through Dr. Dale. This is a system that works naturally with the body to wake up its own hormone capabilities. There are no negative side effects. They are non-toxic. It is a combination of liquid tinctures or topical formulas that contain the frequencies of the entire endocrine system. There are no active hormones in these formulas. It gives the body or the cells a blueprint of proper production so that the body begins to adopt. That the body begins to adopt. You don't have to take it forever, which is great. Once you can heal the body, we can kind of wean off and maintain the dose depending on your lifestyle. Just so you guys know, if you're ever going onto any sort of homeopathic protocol, no caffeine can be consumed while taking the remedies. And along with diet and lifestyle adjustments, most herbs and homeopathics will not have long-lasting, long-term effects if healing blocks and root causes are not addressed. So with natural medicine, we really want to make sure we get rid of all those root causes that I was talking about earlier, the metals, the toxins, the stress, all that stuff. And then we use homeopathy to kind of reprogram how the body's making its native production. This is a protocol I have put together for men with low testosterone. So number one, you want to test their hormones using an advanced saliva test. Then we're going to run the whole body detoxification kit. And really, you guys, 3 to 6 months is ideal. You want to detox as much as possible. Then we have a male testosterone tincture, our Bio Age Reverse tincture, MBM male tincture, and Adaptogen Pro. So these 6 products I would use as a protocol for men, along with the other diet and lifestyle changes I recommended. For our PCOS women, we really want to make sure we're testing properly for androgens and hormones using saliva or urine. We would use our new Fem 1, 2, and 3, and we have a special cycling calendar so you see when to use each product. Then we have our female tincture, our Bio Age Reverse. We would bring in Berberine Pro if it's insulin-resistant PCOS to really balance the blood sugars. NAC Pro, that's N-acetylcysteine, and then it's really important that women with PCOS detox as well. We have another question coming through. Okay, this is a good one. Do you have to take the supplements forever if you have PCOS? So PCOS is not a disease. It's classified as a syndrome. And it is kind of something that we will have to manage long-term or ongoing is what I meant to say. You will have to be on a higher amount of things in the beginning. Then once your symptoms kind of abate, you can go on a lower maintenance dose of things. But yes, you do need to manage this long-term with diet and with supplements. But the way I see it, you guys, every house in America has supplements anyways on the counter, right? Like we don't know what we need, what we don't need. At least with your PCOS, you know that you're taking supplements that are right for you and your body and that they're benefiting you. So even though we do have to take some things long-term, I think it's worth it to take the things that we need, and they really do help significantly. Some of these protocols are really life-changing for some of my PCOS women. Okay, so again, with PCOS, we just want to detox as long as possible as well. Sorry, guys, break. And just a note on detoxification, every human being should be detoxing every spring and fall and doing a parasite cleanse. So if you can kind of build that into your lifestyle every spring and fall, it'll help you get sick less as well. Okay, going into menopause, or if you've had a hysterectomy, we really want to check hormones and cortisol levels via saliva. You can use our new Fem all-in-one gel or our hormone. Actually, we don't make hormone patches. They're sprays now. And we use them weekdays only. We take the weekends off with homeopathy, and then you will do detoxification as well. We will skip thyroid. We're doing a whole live for that. And then I do train practitioners or anyone that thinks they want to be a practitioner. So if you guys ever feel the call that you want to work in natural medicine, I would love to talk to you. So I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I will take another minute to take other questions if anyone has any. And then other than that, we will probably do our thyroid issue next, or our episode next. So please just follow me and watch for the announcement of that date. Okay, someone is asking, how can I start to address my adrenal fatigue? So, sorry, dogs. Number one is going to be, if you, let's go back to that slide actually. Actually, no, because I already unshared. Okay, so number one is going to be the adaptogens. And then I had mentioned things like meditation, yoga, and breath work. These are really things that are going to help you de stress. But actually, working with a practitioner that's going to look at your specific cortisol levels and your DHEA at certain times, because it's important to know what's high and what's low and when. And then you can get a custom protocol built based on your labs. So, adaptogens and stress management are general recommendations, but if you really want to do it right, you want to work with a practitioner that's going to look at your situation, your levels, and find your root causes. That's a really great question. Any other question? Okay, this is good. At what age is it appropriate to start hormone testing? As soon as something starts to go wrong. So, if you start to, when you start cycling, if you have painful periods, if you have acne, if you're a male and you're getting acne, test. Maybe you don't have any of those issues and your periods don't bother you, but then you're trying to have a baby and you're having trouble conceiving. You need a better test than just the things that the doctors are providing, which is just like one, maybe a couple estrogens, the progesterone, the testosterone. You really need a full makeup. I have tested kids' hormones, as young as, 10 and 12. So if something starts to go fishy, get tested and get tested properly right away. Great question. Do we have anything else? Okay, well, if there are no other questions, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for your time today and joining me. And again, just watch for announcements for the next episode and have a wonderful, healthy day.